Overconfidence and arrogance are never good, especially when it comes to interviews. These two unfortunate attributes can hamper one's chances of clearing interview successfully. During the course of my corporate career, I had the opportunity to interview for various roles. I recollect a specific instance when I was interviewing for a specific role, and as a part of the hiring process, or that is me and my team, we were interviewing quite a number of candidates. So there was this particular candidate who was good in terms of his skill sets and knowledge sets, and the interview also went fine. So I generally do not conduct stress interviews, or I conduct stress interviews extremely rarely. So most of my interviews are extremely genial and amiable, and I try to be as courteous to the candidates as possible. So somewhere, because of my behavior to this particular candidate and the interview having gone fine, he presumed that he has been selected for this role. Also, during the course or towards the end of the interview, I very clearly mentioned that we are also interviewing other candidates, and the organization or the representative of the organization would let you know in terms of the status in a few days from then. Unfortunately, he interpreted, or possibly he got some feeling that he's been selected, and that was unfortunately because of overconfidence. Coincidentally, at that point of time, there was an ex-colleague of his who was working in the same organization as me, and he came to me one day and told, John, have you selected this particular person who had met you a few days ago? So I said, no, I have not selected, because we are also interviewing other candidates, and that was also communicated to this candidate that we are interviewing, and it would be some time till we announce the final shortlist. So this particular colleague of mine mentioned that since he's in touch with his previous organization, and the same candidate and this particular colleague of mine worked together, and this colleague of mine actually moved in from the same organization which this candidate was currently employed with. So he, that's my colleague, had quite a few contacts within that same ex-organization of his, and he said that I got to know from my various contacts that this particular candidate has gone about all over the organization informing that he had met you and he had got selected for the interview. So quite a few people in that organization knew me due to various reasons. Maybe some other candidates had also met me and for various roles and gone through the interview process. So this was what was told, that he's gone all about in the organization and informed people that he's been selected for this particular role within our organization. So I said that's not accurate. And in fact, we went on to hire another candidate, and when this candidate came to know about this, he was extremely sad. He reached out to my colleague in HR, and my colleague in HR couldn't manage it. So she informed me, and I spoke to this candidate, and I told very nicely to this candidate that never presume or assume anything. So it was never communicated that he's been shortlisted. Of course, we had a good interview. However, that doesn't mean automatically that one is selected unless someone gets a confirmation. And then he realized that he had been overconfident and presumed certain points, or possibly gone on to believe on himself or by himself that he's been selected for this role. So what happened is unfortunate. There was a sadness at his side. Even I was not very happy because of what transpired, because this is the last thing that you want to get involved in. So this is an unfortunate reality. Many a times during interviews, candidates appear overconfident. Sometimes it also goes into the level of arrogance. So even during certain interviews that I've conducted, I realized that certain candidates were so much into themselves and possibly thought of themselves so highly that everything in their organization, they just credited themselves for it. They didn't pass any credit to anyone, and that's something which was not a point which digested well with me, because if the person was doing so well in the organization, why is he or she planning to leave the organization? So the point to consider is during interviews, one should refrain from being overconfident and arrogant. Go into the interview process with all humility. Also, bragging about your experience, talent, and capabilities is something which should not be done. You can present facts on the table, you can be confident. However, pride and arrogance is something which would impact your chances adversely. Understand, the interviewer at the other side is also experienced. That person has also the knowledge and the capability to understand people. So the moment you try to behave in a manner that you are God's gift to mankind, then it's going to become a problem. It would actually hamper your chances in the interview rather than giving you an opportunity to move forward to the next round or get selected for the role. So please refrain from bragging. Don't get into a situation where you credit yourself for everything that's happening, all the positive things that are happening. At the same time, don't also demean anyone, including your boss in the organization that you're employing. In case you're appearing for an interview, don't criticize your organization or your boss during interviews. That's also extremely important, because anyone understands that today you're criticizing one person or one organization, tomorrow you will be criticizing their organization or them. So you will have to restrain yourself from doing that. And then during interviews, always listen. Don't let overconfidence get to you where you actually cut short when the interviewer is speaking, or you're not attentive, or you're not listening, because that's something again which would be detrimental to your interests. So when it comes to interviews, humility is definitely going to be one factor or one attribute that would be in your favor. Please refrain from the elements of overconfidence, arrogance, bragging about what you have done, and also being impolite to the interviewer by not listening or understanding what he or she says, and at the same time cutting the interviewer mid-sentence. These points should be taken care of for you to have a successful and fruitful interview process. Thank you very much for your time.